Ledger guided his team to victory? I don't know who Aldi Heath Ledger is, but I enjoy Shark Week. In the standings, the Panthers have a 4-point gap at the top on 20 points with the Storm, and Cowboys on 16 points. Sharks, Broncos, and Eels all have 14 points. Then the Roosters in 7th have 12. Rabbitohs, Raiders, Sea Eagles, and Dragons all have 10 points. Warriors have 8. Then Titans, West Tigers, and Knights all have 6. Bulldogs are bottom with 4. There was a line, I guess relevant to us because it's an English player, so we'll mention it in terms of news. Englishman Herbie Farnworth has signed a new deal with Brisbane Broncos that will keep him at the NRL Giants until at least the end of next season. 22-year-old centre has scored 16 tries in 51 NRL games since making his first team debut. Excellent reporting, as always, by our friends at Love Rugby League, making sure that I didn't miss that story and plenty of the other stories we've talked about this week in the show. We've got some other games to talk about. Do you want to cover the first couple? Because there's a few more that came in late that I'll have to cover.
Yep, so it was... the St Albans Centurions Masters versus the combined Southampton and Medway Masters, and it finished 0-0.
Yeah, all Masters games finish 0-0, don't they?
It was good fun in the sun at the Coliseum. Oh, sorry, this is Tim G Radio. It was good fun in the sun at the Coliseum. We were joined by a couple of debutantes called Sean. One of them was quick, the other less so, but he played really well. St Albans took a while to get into it, but scored 2 great team tries in the second half with an assist from the Centurions' loosest forward, me. Not too many injuries and a great beer and barbecue enjoyed by all afterwards. A brilliant 0-0 as always. Hail Caesar. And Bruiser664 got in touch about the same match and said Sean Orton made his running game debut for St Albans in a very fun, friendly game. A couple of try-saving takes from Sean and some good runs down the middle from Tim Grindell. Some good tries from both teams culminated in a competitive 0-0 draw and some good burgers at the end.
Yeah, good to hear from Sean on that. Great to hear from Tim. Now that the football season's over and his Brentford side have stayed up in the Premier League and all of that, and some of the other stuff he's had going on, I think hopefully coming to a resolution soon. Maybe we'll see a bit more rugby league from Tim as well, which would be great to see. So good to have him back in the rundown. I'm delighted about that this week. Sean, Bruiser664, got in touch as well about some Sheffield Eagles wheelchair rugby league games in the Peacock Cup. The first one was Sheffield Eagles 0, Rochdale Hornets 14. He said Sheffield kicked off the tournament with a stronger start than usual, making some good opportunities and holding Rochdale out for just under 10 minutes before conceding 3 in 5 minutes. Sheffield were able to rally again and hold the Hornets out for the rest of the game in a tough fixture that saw Lottie Davis-Brown stay out the last 15 minutes of the game with a suspected broken thumb. God, these guys are hard, aren't they? Then it was Torfey and Tigers 14, Sheffield Eagles 4. Again in the Peacock Cup. Another good game from both teams saw Sheffield facing Torfian for the first time and holding them to 14 despite not having any subs available due to the earlier injury, the aforementioned suspected broken thumb. Great play from the Eagles towards the end saw the ball going the full width of the pitch, though through every set of hands before making its way to Christopher Brown, who scored on the wing in his debut. Unfortunately, Sean Orton was unable to convert. I love it when he talks about himself in the third person. But well done, Christopher Brown. Then North Wales Crusaders 24, Sheffield Eagles 4, and Bruiser said North Wales came out at a blistering pace in the final game, continuing the form that led to them remain unbeaten all day. Eagles coach Greg Brown made his playing debut, stepping in for the injured Lottie to play alongside his son Christopher. Eagles' defence stood firm in the second half, with the highlight being an outstanding chase from Sean Orton to make a tackle from a Crusaders break. The play of the ball by Emma Pearson to Greg saw a quick pass on the inside back to Emma, who was able to get over for her first ever try in 10 years of playing rugby league. God, that is some nudie run, that, isn't it? That she's off.
Yeah.
Conversion missed by David Butler, but well done, Emma, for getting your first try.
Yeah, congratulations.
Great stuff. As always, thanks everyone for getting in touch. Really enjoyed the stuff on those Masters and wheelchair games, as well as all of the other stuff we got there in other results. Remember, if there's any game that you watched or heard about or wanted to tell us about, if it's your local community club or your kids are playing in a PDRL game or anything like that, then get in touch with a fan review. Just drop them on the form under the other option and we will talk about them, because it's great to hear what's going on in the wider world of rugby league. Our focus though now, as we go into the predictions, is going to be on the headline event, the Challenge Cup final. Okay, Sarah, the first silverware is up for grabs this year. It's the Challenge, well, in the men's competition anyway. We know Saints have already won the Challenge Cup in the women's competition. They're not going to win it in the men's competition because it's Huddersfield versus Wigan, Saturday 3 p.m. You can watch it on BBC One if you weren't able to nab a free ticket before the RFL realised they'd fucked up on the code or whatever happened there with that, or if you hadn't legitimately bought a ticket in advance for this match. Either of those options applied. But yeah, the big game, Saturday afternoon. Not under the Wembley Arch, but in the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium.
Mm-hmm.
I think I've managed to not say it's at Wembley that many times this week.
Well done.
Not as many as I said last week. But that's not the most important thing about this game, is it? Let's face it. So, before we give our guesses, shall we run through the SLP poll we ran, Sarah? Yeah. We asked people who they think they'd win and by how many. So the options were Huddersfield by 12 plus, so Huddersfield with a comprehensive win. Huddersfield by 1 to 12 points, so a bit closer, but Huddersfield win. Wigan by 1 to 12 or Wigan by 12 plus. And the results are as follows: 6.6% think that Huddersfield will win by 12 plus. 25.6% think that Huddersfield will win by 1 to 12. So overall, what we're looking at there, 32% thinking Huddersfield are going to win the match. Then 32% think Wigan will win by 12 plus, and 35.5% think Wigan will win by 1 to 12. So Wigan by 1 to 12 seems the most popular choice. Wigan are the favourites with the bookies as well, Sarah. Do you have Wigan as the favourites?
Yeah, I actually voted for Wigan by 12 plus.
Okay.
I think you're the better team. You've got better players. Yeah, that's basically it. I think, especially because Huddersfield's halfback situation isn't great. They will have Will Price back, won't they? But it'll be his first match back after, was it
10 games?
Yeah. So, it's a significant amount of time, and then for him to come back straight away into a final when potentially he's suddenly going to have to be stepping up and leading the way. It can go one of two ways, can't it? But I just think Wigan have got too much. I think that they're just more organised, more clinical. I think Matt Pete's doing a very good job at Wigan. I really like Cade Cust at Wigan. I think he's great. I think on the big open, it's not Wembley as you say, but I imagine it's still.
I think pitch dimensions wise, Wigan had a good preparation playing at your place because you've got quite a wide pitch as well, haven't you? So.
But I think that'll favour Wigan more than it'll favour Huddersfield. With Jai Fields and Bevan French and Liam Marshall, you've got players that like the open space. I think obviously for Huddersfield they've got McQueen and they've got Luatelli, haven't they? And I like both of them, but I'm just not sure that they've got enough. So that's why I went for Wigan by 12 plus.
I think one thing I'd slightly disagree with you on is the way you said about who's more organised, because I think Ian Watson does have this Huddersfield side incredibly well organised, but I do think Matty Pete has got this Wigan side playing in a much better spirit than Wigan were playing last year. We're going to have to be a bit worried about how many points we've been conceding recently. I think that's something for us to be mindful of. But having said that, in our cup run, our defence has been relatively strong for the most part, so they've keyed in on these knockout games in that regard. It's a bit different, isn't it? Because both teams are likely to be missing some people, but Wigan know who they're missing and know who'll be playing in their place. The only injury doubt after last weekend's game was Jake Bibby, who had a slight groin strain, but it doesn't sound like that's too concerning at the moment. But we know Lulawai's out. We know Kai Pearce-Paul's out. We know that Sam Powell's out, so we know that Brad O'Neill will play with maybe a bit of Joe Shorrocks. We know that Ian Thornley's been doing pretty okay actually in that right centre spot in recent weeks, and we know that Harry Smith will play. And actually, Harry Smith's kicking, his goal kicking's been superb for the most part this year, and he's kicked a few winning drop goals already this year as well. So that could be a key feature for Wigan. Whereas for Huddersfield, the question marks they've got, it's not as clear cut, is it? It's like Farge is injured, Russell's injured, McQueen's injured. They're expecting McQueen to be back. It seems like he's over his groin strain that he seemed to have. It sounds like Russell won't be playing with the hamstring injury he's got. And then Farge, I suppose, he's going to play. I don't doubt that he's going to play. But whether he can be got at because of any injury, that's a question mark as well. You'd think that Cogger will play because he's been playing recently as the sort of first choice. And I kind of think that Will Price might be on the bench as a kind of option as cover in case Farge doesn't go through the whole game. And also, he can fill in at full-back if needed. You can move things around so that Cogger or Farge fills in at hooker if needed, and Price goes into the half-back. So it gives you cover options there, and he's a very talented player. So if you're behind and you need a score, he could also do something special that potentially. So I expect it to go that way, and that's, I think, what Wigan will be preparing for as well, which I guess if Wigan have got a good idea, even though it's unknown, they can prepare, and Huddersfield clearly will be training for lots of different options because Ian Watson's a very prepared and organised kind of guy.
Yep. Are you making any predictions, Mark?
Yeah, I'm going to go Wigan by 8. I hope it'll be similar to the game that Wigan had at home against Huddersfield rather than the game where Wigan played Wigan and Huddersfield both played weakened sides last week. I think Cade Ellis will be a good boost to have back after a week off. He came back from his longer suspension that he had earlier in the season for Jordan Zazaria twatting him in the head and him reacting. He came back from that really well. So I'm hoping if he comes back from this 1 week off as well, that'll be a really good boost for Wigan in the forward pack. I think Farrell and Bateman are like two of the world-class players that we can talk about. Personally, I know people might disagree, but that's how I feel about them. Bateman recovered a lot from his bad form last year, and no one can remember Farrell having bad form. So hopefully that goes in our favour. And like you say, we've got speed out the back, which should help on a big. I don't know if I assume a big playing surface, but any playing surface, that sort of speed that Wigan have got is good. That's not to say that with whichever senior plays, is it Innis Senior who's been playing more? He's very fast too and very good, and Jerry's obviously a great finisher. So,
and I think I feel like Huddersfield have more unpredictability in their players, both in terms of their consistency, but also what they will do. Whereas I feel Wigan will play more to script. But then Huddersfield are a boring, grindy down team as well.
Yeah, and I think that's some of the recruitment stuff between the two sides has changed that. I think Farge going to Huddersfield has made them a bit more scripted, but you've got Lola here who breaks away from that, and Danny Levi, who's really sparky out of dummy half, who breaks away from that. And then for Wigan, Patrick Mago being such an offloading threat changes a dynamic that Wigan didn't have before in terms of unpredictability. So I get what you're saying, and then I think there's also players that flip around those what we've thought about these two teams over the last few years as well. So it's going to be interesting to see. Brandon Dawson got in touch to sort of expand on his prediction. He said A battle down the middle for the majority of the game, with Wigan just having too much class. 15-8 is his score prediction. And then Barney at Bat and Hole Blue said, going to be a nail-biting nightmare with Wigan hanging on at the end. Come on, Wigan. So